That's really good for us. And we'll see with the years. But for now, if we respect the size of the tree before we start to tap them, if we work well with the tree, it seems that it have no effect on the growing. That's a really good thing. So 10 years, we'll see with the future. And there's probably between 218 and 219, we can see that there was practically no grow, but they think that it was probably due to the drought of that year. And but if you have smaller tree that are under the canopy of the bigger tree, they will have a reduced speed of growing. So, yes, tapping a tree normally don't affect its growing except for smaller one, 8 inches, 10 inches under the canopy. Where a few, there's more than one study that say, hey, smaller tree, they are affected by our tapping. That's why a minimum size of the tree is proposed to the people. It, depending where we live, on the East Coast, the West Coast, the growing, and um, for everybody, 8 inches as a minimum of tapping is maybe not considered for now. A lot of people will say maybe we should start bigger than that, maybe 9, 10, or 12, depending of the quality of the site. We need good conductive wood. So we would love to have shaving like at left, but sometime we have like at the right picture. They do a good study about the effect on have non-conductive wood in our drill bit, and again, we would love to have all tap that we do like this, but sometimes it's like that. So it's sure that
And when we look
oh, thank you, Mr. Perkins. We have here the effect of the more non-conductive wood you have in your tap hole, less sap you will have. So it's normal. But what should I do in that case if I found non-conductive wood in my drill? What we suggest if you, in that case, you will have a reduced yield for that tap hole. But if you're too much severe and you need always a good perfect tap, sometimes it's hard to find when the trees have been tapped for years and years and years. So sometimes we have to accept something like that because in that case, we have the bark, we have conductive wood, and after non-conductive wood. And in that case, we're going to have sap, less than a perfect tap and we have enough conductive wood to have moisture in it, and it will be inflate, if I can say, and we will have a good seal for air tightness on our spout. Okay, I would like to have maybe more conductive wood, but it's an example. If you have a good, if you have a part of conductive wood, if the non-conductive wood is hard, there will be no leak from that apple. But if the part of the non-conductive wood is not healthy, it is not hard, um, that is a possible of a leak. So in that case, we will not put the spout in that hole. So we're starting to have more difficulty to tap with the year. So should we put a second or a third tap all on the tree? You can imagine with all those tap, each year for years. It became probably on that tree more difficult than the past to find conductive wood. So study in the past showed to us that the size of the tree will give you more sap with a bigger tree. So those are centimeters. So bigger is the tree, more sap you will have. That study will have been done at 20 inches of mercury for the gray column, and the black column is with buckets. So for buckets and system with vacuum, bigger is the tree, more sap you can have from that tree. Same result years, many years be after from Proctor. So what should we do? If I have a big tree that have a bigger capacity to give me sap, so the many study, more than one, show us that on a big tree, if you put one tap, you will have a good yield per tap. But on a big tree, if you tap only one hole, you will have some of the sap that it's too far from the exit with the tap hole. And because our flow is between two frost, imagine that it start to flow at 9 o'clock in the morning and it frost at 7 o'clock in the evening. You have 10 hours from to the sap to go from the other side and find the tap hole on the other side of the tree. And sometimes it doesn't have the time to be there at time. So when you have only one tap on a big tree, you miss some sap because the sap tried to go to the tap hole but didn't have the time before the next frost tonight. So that's why on a big tree, it's a good idea to put two tap holes because so each side of the tree we have the possibility to get the sap before the frost of tonight. But the third or the fourth tap doesn't give you more sap than two. That means that on a big tree, if you put two taps, normally you're capable to have the sap that you should have from that tree today. But if you put more tap all on that big tree, like three or four or five taps on that tree, you will not really have more sap from that tree today, but you will do more injury, more uh, non-conductive wood on that tree, and give you less place to tap in the future. So on the big tree, two is enough. And as bigger is the tree, as bigger is the increase of the yield from that tree with the second tap. In that study, they stop at 20, but they do other study, and there have been some study in Quebec too that show as bigger is the tree, more sap is coming from the second tap. And you see at 12 inches, the second tap don't give you a lot of more sap because but at 20 inches you have better augmentation of your sap from that tree. That study was made at 25. Excuse me. So when they redo the third edition of the North American maple syrup, it was a good time to have a reflection about what would be the size of the tree to tap and everything like that. So in that book, what was right writing a few years ago, the optimal tapping suggest was we should have the first tap somewhere 9 to 12 in, inches, and the second tap should arrive between 18 to 22. So there's a lot of consideration. This is a first number to consider, but it's sure that if you have trees that are not healthy, it could be more 12 and 22. And if you have really good growing and really healthy tree, you will be more near the 9 and the 18 inches. That's what is suggest in that book. And the um, the um, the tapping depth suggests is 1.5 to 2 inch in that case. So that give us good number because depending which state or which province where you live, the there was a so big variety of first tap sizing tree, but this is something to consider. Um, my drop line will give me access for a part of the tree or a complete part of the tree. So what would be the length of my drop line? Uh, in the past, we were trying to have no loop under the 516. So if the drop line was too long, there was too much plastic to manage. And sometimes we have a really tiny drop line like that reduce the access of all the tree all around. So this was really not enough. This was a little bit better. So because for years we suggest to people to have really well drained drop line, 24 to 36 inches was enough. And if I have a gravity system with no vacuum pump and with natural vacuum, I will probably continue to tap like this. But if I have a vacuum pump and I can control when I can have vacuum, now we try to do that almost all the time when we tap. So it will help us to find the leaks for our air tightness without reducing the yield. Yes, we never do that by the past because it was normal to think about everything must be installed with a slope and with a good drainage. So the picture as your right, at your right, must be more natural to do. And as I said, it's probably good to continue to tap like this if I have no vacuum pump but a gravity system. But with vacuum, it is so nice to have that small loop like this because you will see the movement of the sap, and if you don't, and you will evaluate if you have a leak from that tap hole or not. So easy to find the leak with that without without reduce your yield. And as an example, it is the same kind of thing that we do now with vacuum system. We never do that by the past, but now we know that that spiral doesn't reduce the yield, and it is so helpful when you want to find a leak on the lateral lines. Again, it's with when we have a vacuum system. So how deep should we tap? Um, Older studies show us that deeper we tap, more sap we have. But that was with 20 inches of mercury with the pump. More recent studies show us that, if you increase your vacuum, like here, 25 inches of mercury, it it is enough to have 1.71 and a 3/4 inch is enough to have all the sap that the tree is capable to give me today. And if you drill more deep, 225 or 2.5 inches, you don't have more sap. The difference of this and this is the vacuum level. So that's good. If the vacuum can help me to have all the sap that the tree can give me today and do a less deep injury, that will give me less non-conductive wood. It is in French, but what it says is deeper you drill, more non-conductive wood you will have. So now with higher vacuum system, we can drill less deep and still have a good yield. That's really good. I would suggest you to use nail polish on your drill bit because if you decide 1 and 3/4 inch, it will be enough. In your team, you have so many people who are seeing thing. Wow, that's hard. Seeing things really differently. So when I say to all my team worker, okay, we go 1 and 3/4 inch, they think that they do it, but some will do almost 1 inch, and other will go all the drill bit until the chuck will be near the bark. So the average will be 1 and 3/4 inch. But I don't want an average. I want them to all tap the same depth. So if you put some nail polish like this, you will say to everybody, hey, when the color hits the bark, you stop to drill and you get out of the tree. So everybody, it will be standardize the work. And we don't use nothing, no metal, no plastic as a stopper. Because when we use our drill at 2000 RPM, if I use a stopper in metal or plastic, it it will be hurt the bark and reduce its capacity to be airtight when it's the time to be tight. Only some a color like that, and it will not uh, hurt the bark. So we will go. I was somewhere when 1.5 to 2, and probably 1 and 3/4 will be enough. But let's talk about red maple. There's two kind of red maple on my point of view. For now, until tonight, I know those two. So those are two red maples. The one at your left is practically all conductive wood, easy to tap. The heart is really, really small, and compared to the one at your right, that the conductive wood is only almost 1.5 inches, and the heart is color really, really big. So all that dark wood doesn't flow. It so it don't have any sense to drill until that depth. So I think that those kind of red maple in Quebec are growing in poor soil, or uh, not really good drain soil with too much moisture. So, and it create more easily that kind of big heart. So, if it's me who gonna be tap that tree, and I hit the heart on the first tap of my day, and the second, and the three, and the third, and the fourth tree in row, that hey, I always finish my drill bit, always finish in dark wood like this. I will stop and say, where am I? Oh, okay, I'm in a flat place with a bad drainage. It seems that we have big, dark heart here. Maybe I should drill less deep. So let's go no more than 1.5 in this area. And when we get out from this area and the tree will be different in different condition, let's try to get back to 1.75 inches. And if it's work, so it works. So we have to adapt our depth depending on the situation where I am. Another, on my farm near Quebec City, my trees are tapped for more than 200 years. So I have trees that are tapped for more than 150 years. So there's a lot of stories in those trees. And if I tap too long, too deep, I will hit uh, old stories in the tree, old injury. So with the years, I tap less deep, and what I have, it's more conductive wood with and not finish in the dark wood like that, and it's better. When should we tap? Presently, depending where you live, we have a combination of really cold days and after some warm days. So here in New York, they do that test, and what they see it. If you drill a hole, you put a spout, and you turn upside down the exit of the spout, and you connect the spout to a gauge like that. They notice that when it's defrost and warm, we can have pressure as high as 25 psi during the day. That means that when the sap is flow from the tree, it's coming with pressure. But in the night, if it's frost, they notice that in the tree we have vacuum. So our trees are presently in a period where they have pressure and vacuum depending if it's frost or defrost in the day. So all the season you will have those variation. But why do I talk about that now? It's have a big influence of the when should I tap? Because if I tap now, and it's supposed to be a cold season now in January, but like yesterday, it was really warm. Yesterday, all the trees that are already tapped flow, and those those trees give sap in the drop lines. But when it will when it get colder today, because today it's frost this afternoon, the trees have come with vacuum, and we have a possibility of backflow today. So when it's flow, the tree is pushing the sap away from the apple. But when it's frost, the tree can pull the sap through, in direction of the apple. And it's all about how clean is your drop line. It's sure that if it's brand new and never have any sap in it, yeah, there's not a lot of microbe in it. But for anything that have sap for a year or more, this is not uh, sterilized. There are microbes there. And when you have a backflow with sap was go in a dirty drop line and come back at the end of the day when it's frost and go back in maybe in the tap hole and contaminate the tap hole with that microbe, the tree doesn't like that and it can react. There are different reactions, but at the end, the result is reduce the sap flow in the real season that is coming. So if I don't want to have that backflow, one of the, sorry for the French, one of the things that we should do is, okay, yesterday it was flowing. I have a part of my sugar bush that is already tapped. So let's start the pump. Maybe I don't have the project to keep the sap, but I will start a vacuum pump to be sure that I will pull the sap in direction of the sugar house and I will let the pump run until we will have a frost, 31 degree, 32 maybe. And at that moment, if the sap at 31 or 32 or 30 degree Fahrenheit, the sap will frost and get icy. It cannot move back in the tap hole. And after that, I can stop the pump. So if you tap early, you have to be capable to start the pump. If you cannot start the pump, maybe you should wait to tap later. But if you have a big operation, you maybe need to tap early a part of your wood to be sure that you will be done at the for the season. You should be able to start the pump. There's another possibility. You can put a check valve spout. In that case, if you don't have a vacuum, during the day, the sap will go in direction of the sugar house. But when the vacuum will natural vacuum of the tree will try to pull the sap through the table, if you have a check valve spout, the ball in it will stop the sap and it cannot come back in the apple. So if you have not the possibility to start the pump and you want to tap early, the check valve spout is good for you. If you have no vacuum pump, you have by gravity, maybe you should tap later to avoid all those backflow possibility. But again, if you have to tap early and you don't have a pump because you're in gravity, probably for you, the the check valve spout would be a really good idea. Uh, uh, I like this one because what it show is if you just read the tree control, spring control, winter control, fall control. This is for the East Coast. Um, if you tap really, really early, like in fall, in the West, in the East Coast, like New England or Quebec, probably if you tap really, really early, when it will be the season in the in the spring, the yield is really reduced because the control is the spring, so the winter flow less and the fall flow really less. But if I was in West Virginia, it will be not the same because flow of the sap in West Virginia or Ohio will arrive earlier. So I maybe tapping in the fall to be ready in the winter because the your season is earlier will be a good idea. So this show that it's about a question of time. If you tap really too early, it will affect your yield. But if you tap really near the season, that is better. But what is the size of your operation? How many people work with you? How much time it take to tap? We have to take all that in consideration. A young man in Vermont present that this year, and what it show is uh, the time that we tap has an effect on the the non-conductive wood, and for the eastern part of the North America to tap really, really early, like November, seems to have an effect on the volume of the non-conductive wood. So that should be continued to be studied, but not only the volume of the sap will be affected by a really early tap, but the size of the wound also. So that's probably show that not we know not everything about tapping. We try to do our best, but there's so much to know uh, in the future. And he, his studies show that if you tap really early, the size of the non-compactive wood was really big, really many feet of long when you tap really early before the season. But this is the real season. When the trees are getting to that point, uh, that is our real start. So as 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 a man living in Quebec, this has happened really never before the end of March or the beginning of April. If we go more south, people don't have a lot of snow, and to have a good flow, the roots near the bark needs to be clear of ice and snow. So depending where you live, the real season beginning when it's arrived like this, if you have snow in your woods. So imagine that where the sap is passing through your tree, imagine it's like they are like straws, and your drill bits must be extremely sharp to be sure that all the vessels where the sap is moving are extremely well cut to be full open like this. If your drill bit is not enough sharp, you can imagine that they are partially uh, closed and the sap will not get out from the vessels easily. So in Quebec, we have the chance to have the drill bits from the company Balduc. I know that they are they are possible to find in USA too. You should take the time to try those drill bit this year if you've never done by the past because they are the only drill bits that are be made for tapping. All the other drill bits are for steel and they change the angle of the head. But this one is made to tap maple and it can be used at full second speed, 2000 RPM, and it can be used at a lower speed too. And we have they have all the size that you can need. All the size of the spout are available. Really, really good drill bits. So protect them. They are good for 1,000, 2,000 tap, and but you have to clean them each day. So if you want to do from 1,000 to 2,000 tap a day a year with those drill bit, at the end of each day, this is hot water with dish soap for make the dishes, and they just sit for an hour or in that, and after you rinse and you take out all the sugar that is thick on your drill bit. So sometimes we think that my drill bit is not good as it was yesterday. It is still sharp. It is too sticky. So get out the the sugar on it only with hot water with soap like this, and you rinse, and tomorrow you have a fantastic drill bit ready to go. And for the drill, you need to use one that don't have a hammer, because when you have a drill with a hammer, the chuck is more loose, and it is not good to drill a really round tap hole. And search a, a speed that you have here. You have from on the first speed 450 and on the high speed 1500. This is like this. I would like more, a minimum of 550 on the first speed, and I would like a minimum of 700 on the high speed. That will give you a better result with your drill bits. You can add on your machine, your drill, an adapter like that. That would be really helpful if you have to tap over your head, because normally we would suggest to keep your two hands on the drill so you will be extremely stable. But sometimes we have to tap more high on the tree because here there's enough hole tap hole. So if I want to go over that place on my tree, and probably I can use only one hand, that will help to be more stable. This is the precision tapper coming from Vermont, and this is the X-Tap that is available on H2O. In that case, you can keep the chuck of your drill, and after the season is ending, you recover your drill as a normal drill. In that case, it's only for tapping now. So that's the one from H2O. I will try a video with you, and if it's not clear, you will say to me, and I will not present other tonight.
Attention.
So it is so high over his head. He cannot take his two hands, but with the adapter, it was more stable, and you only have to push. The angle is adjustable, the depth is adjustable, and the big spring would make him coming out straight. And we have other company that make some in plastic like that. This is the original. Hey, the King Portable Power Tree Tapper. So What is interesting? So at the end, we see the spring. So that spring is important. Like all those tools have spring. That that is what is helpful to get out straight. So that was fun to find. So the original. Um, what is the distance that we should put between the tap hole? Uh, if you find a hole and you want to be just, if you want to go, what I will say, if you have a hole here, because of the non-conductive wood, we will suggest if you want to tap over or under, it is a minimum of 16 inches. 16 inches is the minimum over and under. But because the sap is moving on horizontally, probably it's good if you decide to go 16 inches. Why not be just beside a minimum of 3/4 inch, not extremely straight. So 16 inches with a 3/4 inch just beside would be a good idea. If you want to tap at the same height on the tree, the minimum distance would be 4 inches because if um, this is the distance that we suggest if it's just beside. And if you want to be beside but less than 4 inches, so we suggest 2 inches with a minimum of 6 or 8 inches. So we'll call that a 2/8. It is writing 2/6 here because when it's really, really, really hard to find a place, 2/12 it's difficult. 2/8 is better, but when there's a lot of old hole on the bark, sometimes the best that you can find is 2/6 with everything that you see. So I would suggest 4 beside or 16 inches with a little bit walker, 3/4 just beside, and a 2/8. That would be three possibility. And for tonight, I will say that would be for me the same for red maple, for sugar maple, for buckets, for gravity system, and for vacuum. So I will keep the same. Uh, question from Melanie. Uh, should you should only use two tap even on bigger trees? Okay, yes. The on the bigger tree we stop with two tap because more than more than two studies show that if you go with more tap, it doesn't give you more sap. Okay, so I think I will be have a message soon that say that time is running. So you just say to me when I have to stop, and it's okay. Um, so this is probably 9 years of tapping here. So if we do the what I just showed, 6 inches with a 3/4, 16 inches and 3/4, 16 inches and 3/4. And if I do the 2/6 or 2/8, and after I go 16 and 16, so that will be a 9 year of tap like that. And this is the same, but and that respect the 4 inches when it's at the same level. Uh, Bad tap. Too near mushroom and not really healthy wood. That all was too near of that bad wood. I think that it is less than 4 inches just beside here, so that's a bad table. Oh, they tap a dead tree. No, doesn't work. And here, it's too far. It's too near again, and you see the bubbles in the drop line show that the vacuum is pulling air from that small distance. Doesn't work. Here, they tap directly in that canker. This is not good wood. Here, they tap just beside. That is interesting. This is not natural on a tree to have those two half moon like that. So that's an old apple. There is no leak with that apple because the bark is completely closed. So there's no leak with that distance, but you will not have sap coming from that side because the sap is coming in your tap all from the bottom, from the top, for both sides and maybe from the back of the table. In that case, you will add no sap from the right side. So that's why we suggest minimum of distance between the old tap hole two to be sure that you are in an area with full of conductive wool all around your tap hole. So, okay, this distance is not so bad. Oh, we missed this one. The one just over is really old, but we still have those two half moon there. And probably when they tap, they start in conductive wood and ending in non-conductive wood. There's no leak there, but they tap too near that old hole and the yield was lower. So imagine that it is a situation that you have many tap hole like this because you do things like this in the past. Maybe not you, but the one before that was working there. So that's why sometimes we don't have the choice to do that. Go more up in the tree. So we need a ladder to go over that area. So yes, he is smiling, but I'm not sure that it was so fun to work. Imagine you do all your tap with a ladder. This ladder is bigger because you want to climb in it with his snowshoes. And this one is those one are model of ladder that people use because all those farms are tapped for so many years that the easy part of the tree here is now extremely difficult to tap because they have made so much tap with the years that they go over with the ladder and here it's all conductive wood, but they need a ladder. So it's not always easy. I like this one. Just take that picture of a picture a few weeks ago. So snow can be a problem effectively. What is good on that picture is he have a precision tapper because he have to tap with only one end. So is more stable in that case. John ask, does it make a difference how high or how low on the tree you tap. For now, what we know it is, and we will stop here for the picture. From now, we answering question. Yeah, that's a good question because yeah, if I tap more high on the tree like this, the effect will be that I will be in a really good area with conductive wood. And Ontario made a study many years ago, and they say the lowest you tap on the tree, bigger yield was, but it was on buckets. What was the explanation with the buckets is the tree is a container with sap, and the weight of that sap make more pressure if you're lower on the trunk. That's what they say. So for people with buckets, if you tap more lower, you will have they add more sap in their study. But for us, we have to respect the slope of the lateral lines. The lateral lines should have a slope until it get to the main line or a container. So we don't have the choice. There must be a slope in direction of the for the sap, and to tap in that region, most of the time give more sap because you have more quality woods. Uh, Erika asked, what is the lowest a tree should be tapped with vacuum? Oh, the lowest. The lowest will be just here. So I said that it is correct. This is the lowest that we should tap with a normal spout with unclean drop line, 13 inches between the apple and the 516, because we will be avoid the majority of the backflow at that distance. So if I have a normal spout with that is not a check valve with a not so clean drop line, that will be 13 inches, the lowest that I will go. But with a real clean, extremely clean drop line, we can go lower like this. And if I want to go there, that will be correct with the check valve. So in your situation or in US, sanitation of the tubing is complicated. So probably the answer would be 13 inches. Everything lower 13 inches between there to there, like this. This is less than 13 inches. That should be the start of using a check valve. There, and of course, there. This is on my farm. Make tests about sanitation many years ago. And I have part of my forest, we do a really good sanitation. And in that part, we did not do, but we use the check valve. And you have to observe that you need a minimum of 8 inches to before you start to come up, because when you have that direction to the ground of minimum of 8 inches with vacuum, you will see that you will have a minimum of 4 inches here without any sap. And if you keep the pump vacuum running until it frosts, you will have no backflow because you will have a natural empty zone of sap air. And if you keep the pump vacuum running until frost, 30, 31, 29, when it's gonna frost, there will be no backflow possible. And that works.
Thank you so much, Joelle, for everything so far. We're a bit over time, but we still have some time for some questions. If anyone would like to put questions in the chat, or I believe we can, Lindsay, is it possible for people to open up their mics to ask direct?
Yes, if they want to raise their hand, we can mute them.
There is a question in the chat about how often to replace main and lateral lines.
Okay. If it's about yield, for the main line, you can keep them as long as they are still strong and they did not break, but they will not have a bad effect on your yields if they are still straight, unbreakable, and really airtight. The main line can be stay there for more than 10, 20 years. And when we install tubing, we hope the main line will be there for 25 years. That's our target. But the lateral lines, they they are quality in the plastic and on the quantity of protection from UV. I do that movement because the protection for the UV is a substance that they add to the plastic. So I can protect your 516 for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And after that, they cannot put more protection because that's the maximum that they can put. So if you buy a high quality 516 with a lot of protection from the UV, you know that you can go for a minimum of 15 years, and most of the time they can do more, like again, 20 to 25 years. But if you buy a 516 or a 316 with lower protection, it was say on the invoice, you bought a 5, a 10, or a 15-year protection, they will stay less. So if your question, John, is about the yield, it's sure that the 516 and the main line, they are too far from the tree to have an effect on the yield because of the sanitation. The study that have been made many years ago show that the more near you're from the tapple, the biggest influence the sanitation is. That's why if we start from the main line don't have effect on the yield because it's too far from the tapple. The 516 is too far from the tapple to have an influence with the sanitation on the yield. But the drop line, if you cannot clean them, it's sure that after 3 or 5 years, they are really dirty, full of micro. And if you don't use any sanitizer, I know that there are some people in the US that change them each 3 to 4 years. That's a lot of plastic that is lost. That is not fantastic. And the spout is the most important part to must be really clean. And that's why we have the disposable 1 year spout. And it is really important. So if you don't want uh, um, to cut the drop lines each 3 to 5 years, again, we can have in the discussion the use of the check valve. So each year, if you have a new check valve, you have a new spout. And if you're not able to clean well the drop line, you will stop any backflow of that dirty sap with the check valve. And again, you can add to that a good operation of the vacuum. Always get, always keep running the vacuum pump when it's flow until it's frost at 29. It's a long answer. Excuse me. Erika, you raise your hand.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a small farm and this would be the first year that I'm trying this. How would you suggest I start and with what equipment? Would you suggest gravity to start?
What is your slope? How much percent? You have 2% or more than that?
Uh, about, yeah, about 2.
Okay. Two is because if you're lower than 2 or 3, your gravity system will not give you a high level of natural vacuum, and you will probably disappointed of the result. Two is not a really high slope. So, but it's not flat. If it would be flat, like 0 to 2, I will say to you that you will be extremely disappointed of the result. But if you're capable to place your lateral line to have a minimum of 3%, if you can, you will you will have a good result. And eventually, you can figure to use really tiny pump vacuum. We have now some really small pump that can use only a small solar panel and have way much, or a battery that we can recharge and come back. And with small pump, we can run small operation like 100 or 200 taps with a pump not not biggest than that that take so few electricity that it could run with the battery or a small solar panel. So if your slope is really low, you can consider to add a tiny pump like that and have a good result.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like
Yes.
we have um a comment in French, so I will let you read that, Joelle. And then we have another question from Robert. Do you clean your laterals or suck dry? If clean, with what? If you have time at the end, please share details on your operation and size. Thank you for the information. Here in Ohio, 1,000 tapped already, 2K to go.
In French, it was to say thank you to me. And the from the pump that I talked, yes, it was like a surflow pump, diaphragm pump, really small. That was the pump that I was talking about, exact. Robert said, "Do you clean your lateral or suck dry?" Um, when you have natural vacuum, if it's possible, if you decide today is the last day, and you clean tomorrow, you will still have natural vacuum to do your cleaning. But if you and you will be uh, use that natural vacuum to suck your uh, your sanitizer if you use one. If you don't use any sanitizer, you have to find a way to dry the drop line and dry the laterals, because if there's some sap sitting in your lateral, it could be turned black or white and really roopy and sticky, and maybe close the lateral and block it, and will don't have the capacity to the sap to run through it. The major problem with the 316 with the gravity system is to keep it running without block with the sap that is turned black or white during the summer. So sometimes I know people who run their gravity system without any pump, but they bring a small pump with a generator or a battery when the season is done to create vacuum to help to clean the system, wash it, or at the minimum to drain it completely. So I know people who don't use vacuum pump during the season, but use a small one just to clean. And clean your tubing is a good idea. And you can search what kind of sanitizer is allowed in your region, and there are some that can be used, and that could be a good subject for your group to invite someone who talk about how to clean the a natural vacuum without pump, and because it is the most difficult part to keep that running with the years to be clean and keep the yield in it. 1,000 tap already and 2,000 to go. So yeah, with good slope, it would work. And they will run with the marine battery exactly. Yeah, the diaphragm pump that I just talked about exactly will run with RV marine battery or a small RV solar panel exactly, and can run with that from 100 to 200 taps. So sometimes we have planish a gravity system, but the slope is so tiny that the result was a little bit sad. You just add that small diaphragm pump and with just a few energy like that, and wow, wow, full, full yield, really high, high uh, yield with that. That's good.
Yes, thank you so much, Joelle. Well, while we are waiting for any last minute questions to come in, Sarah, could you please launch our exit poll? And I would like to remind everyone that we will have Dr. Catherine Belisle from Cornell University joining us next month on Thursday, February 19th at 7 p.m. She will be joining us to discuss maple syrup food science and value added products. So we hope to see everyone back here again next month. And again, thank you so much to Dr. Abby Vandenberg for joining us, and Joelle for a wonderful presentation. So much information right on time for maple season here in Central Appalachia. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, but lots of thank yous. So we really appreciate your time. And again, we hope to see everyone back here again next month, February 19th at 7 p.m. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Merci, Joël.
What a great merci. Really well said. So thank you for your invitation and have a nice night. Sorry for all those words that is coming really not straight from my mouth.
You did wonderful. Your English is so much better than my French will ever be.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you, thank you,
you.
thank you.